Hold up. You don't look like you belong around here. What are you doing?
I live here, sir. I'm coming from my friend's house.
In this neighborhood? All right, what's your address?
1247 Mandeville Canyon Road. My father's Special Agent Gary Williams, FBI.
Oh, yeah?
Officer, is there a problem?
Officer Robert Smith patrolled Brentwood's affluent streets with growing resentment, his 8-year career marked by 7 civilian complaints. The August morning sun cast long shadows across Mandeville Canyon Road as his patrol car approached a scene that would end his law enforcement career forever. His mandatory body cam recorded every prejudiced word that followed. The morning air in Brentwood carried the scent of jasmine and freshly watered lawns as 12-year-old Henry Williams walked confidently along Mandeville Canyon Road. The tree-lined street stretched before him like a corridor of privilege, each manicured property a testament to the wealth that defined this exclusive Los Angeles neighborhood. Luxury vehicles sat parked in circular driveways, their polished surfaces reflecting the California sun that filtered through towering palm trees and ancient oaks. Henry adjusted his school backpack, the weight of advanced calculus textbooks, a familiar burden that he carried with pride. His khaki pants were pressed, his polo shirt crisp, and his sneakers spotless. Everything about his appearance spoke of care and attention, the result of parents who understood that their son would be judged more harshly than his peers for any perceived shortcoming. The boy had inherited his father's confident stride and his mother's careful attention to presentation. The Williams family had called this neighborhood home for 3 years, ever since FBI Special Agent Gary Williams received his promotion within the Los Angeles field office. Their relocation to the $2.3 million home had been a milestone, a symbol of achievement that came with its own complex emotions. They were among fewer than a dozen black families in the immediate area, a reality that made every public interaction carry additional weight. Henry had spent the morning at his friend Marcus's house 2 blocks away, working through competition-level mathematics problems that most high school students would find challenging. At 12 years old, Henry possessed the kind of intellectual gifts that made his teachers marvel and his parents beam with quiet pride. He attended Crossroads School in Santa Monica, where his academic excellence had earned him recognition and respect from classmates of all backgrounds. The boy's upbringing had been shaped by his father's career in federal law enforcement. Agent Williams had spent 15 years with the FBI, specializing in organized crime cases that demanded precision, integrity, and unwavering attention to detail. These same values had been instilled in Henry from an early age. Respect authority, tell the truth, maintain your dignity, and trust that the system would protect those who followed its rules. As Henry walked past the perfectly maintained gardens and architectural showpieces that lined his route home, he embodied everything his parents had worked to achieve. His confidence was not arrogance, but rather the quiet assurance of a child who had been raised to believe in his own worth and potential. He carried himself with the posture of someone who belonged exactly where he was, because he did belong there. The neighborhood around him remained largely quiet in the late morning hours, with most residents either at work or engaged in the private activities that defined their privileged lives. Occasional gardeners tended to elaborate landscaping, their presence a reminder of the service economy that maintained these displays of wealth. Security systems and private patrol cars provided the kind of protection that money could buy, creating an atmosphere of safety that most residents took for granted. Henry's destination lay just ahead, where his own family's home waited with its distinctive Mediterranean architecture and carefully tended front garden that his mother had personally designed. Officer Robert Smith represented everything wrong with modern policing, wrapped in the authority of a badge and uniform. At 34 years old, the 8-year LAPD veteran had compiled a record that should have ended his career long before this August morning. His personnel file contained 7 civilian complaints filed over the past 2 years, each one involving people of color in affluent neighborhoods, each one revealing a pattern that his supervisors had chosen to ignore. Smith's background painted the picture of a man consumed by resentment and racial prejudice. Raised in a working-class family in the San Fernando Valley, he had watched his own neighborhood decline, while places like Brentwood flourished. His social media accounts, which Internal Affairs would later scrutinize extensively, contained a disturbing collection of posts expressing anger toward what he termed welfare recipients living in mansions, and diversity hires taking jobs from real Americans. These digital breadcrumbs revealed a mind poisoned by conspiracy theories and racial animosity. The pattern of Smith's misconduct had escalated steadily throughout his career. His assignment to West Division Patrol had been specifically requested, despite the 45-minute commute from his modest apartment in a less affluent area. Colleagues noted his peculiar enthusiasm for patrolling Brentwood and similar upscale neighborhoods, where he demonstrated an uncanny ability to find suspicious activity among minority residents who belonged there more than he did. Smith's training record told a story of institutional failure and willful ignorance. He had failed diversity training twice, requiring remedial coursework that he completed with obvious resentment. His instructors noted his hostile attitude toward discussions of implicit bias and his tendency to argue with scenarios designed to highlight discriminatory policing practices. 2 formal reprimands for inappropriate stops had resulted in his placement on probation 6 months prior to the incident with Henry Williams, yet his supervisors continued to allow him patrol duties in sensitive areas. The officer's daily routine had become a masterclass in racial profiling, disguised as legitimate police work. Fellow officers observed his tendency to initiate extended stops involving Black and Latino individuals, often calling for backup unnecessarily and treating routine encounters as potential criminal investigations. His body cam had suffered convenient malfunctions during several controversial stops, equipment failures that somehow resolved themselves before his next shift. Smith's psychological profile revealed classic signs of racial resentment, mixed with an authority complex that made him dangerous in uniform. Recent personal pressures had only intensified his bitter worldview. A contentious divorce had left him paying substantial child support while struggling with an underwater mortgage. His ex-wife's attorney had cited his increasingly erratic behavior and angry outbursts as evidence of unfitness for shared custody, adding another layer of rage to his already volatile personality. Career ambitions drove much of Smith's aggressive behavior. He desperately wanted promotion to detective status, viewing high-profile arrests as his pathway to advancement. This desperation led him to see criminal activity where none existed, particularly when the subjects were young Black men in expensive neighborhoods. His supervisors had noted his tendency to embellish reports and exaggerate threats in pursuit of commendations. The warning signs had been accumulating for years, yet the system had failed to stop him before he encountered Henry Williams on that fateful morning. The body cam footage began innocently enough, showing Officer Smith's patrol car cruising slowly through the tree-lined streets of Mandeville Canyon. The wide-angle lens captured the pristine sidewalks and manicured lawns that defined this exclusive neighborhood. But Smith's attention focused on something that didn't fit his narrow perception of who belonged there. A young Black boy walked confidently along the sidewalk, his school backpack and clean clothing immediately triggering the officer's prejudiced assumptions. Smith's radio crackled to life as he made his first mistake. "Dispatch, I've got a suspicious individual in the 1200 block of Mandeville Canyon investigating." The boy had done nothing more than exist while Black in an affluent area, yet the officer's bias had already classified him as a threat worthy of police intervention. The patrol car slowed to a stop, and the body cam captured Smith's emergence from the vehicle. His hand instinctively moved to rest on his duty belt, adopting an aggressive posture that immediately signaled confrontation rather than community policing. The boy continued walking, unaware that his peaceful morning was about to become a nightmare of racial profiling and abuse of authority. "Hold up there, son. You don't look like you belong in this neighborhood. What are you doing here?" Smith's opening words revealed the depth of his prejudice, making clear that Henry's presence alone constituted suspicious activity in the officer's mind. The body cam recorded every inflection, every assumption, every constitutional violation that followed. Henry Williams stopped walking and turned to face the officer with remarkable composure for a 12-year-old child. "I live here, sir. I'm walking home from my friend's house 2 blocks over," he replied, his voice clear and respectful, despite the obviously hostile nature of the encounter. The boy's articulate response and confident demeanor should have ended the interaction immediately, but Smith's bias demanded escalation. The officer began circling Henry like a predator, using intimidation techniques typically reserved for adult suspects. The body cam footage captured this psychological abuse in real time, showing how Smith's training had been corrupted by his personal prejudices. "Sure you do, kid. In this neighborhood? What's your address then?" The skepticism in Smith's voice was palpable, his disbelief evident despite having no evidence of wrongdoing. Henry provided his exact address without hesitation: 1247 Mandeville Canyon Road. The specificity and confidence of his response should have satisfied any reasonable officer, but Smith had moved beyond reason into the realm of racial persecution. The body cam recorded his dismissive headshake and the visible contempt that crossed his features. What happened next violated every principle of constitutional policing. Smith demanded to search Henry's backpack without probable cause, parental consent, or any legal justification. The boy complied, his cooperation highlighting the power imbalance that allowed this abuse to continue unchallenged. The search revealed exactly what any reasonable person would expect: school supplies, an advanced calculus textbook, and a house key attached to an expensive keychain. Rather than acknowledging his error, Smith's prejudice demanded further escalation. "Probably stolen," he muttered about the legitimate belongings, his words captured clearly by the body cam. This comment revealed the impossible position Henry faced. No amount of evidence could overcome the officer's predetermined assumptions about black criminality. Smith's next decision crossed the line from harassment into false imprisonment. He called for backup units despite observing no criminal activity, telling dispatch about a juvenile suspect when no reasonable suspicion existed. The boy stood calmly on the sidewalk, his only crime being black in a neighborhood that Smith believed should remain white. As additional patrol units responded to the fabricated emergency, Smith embellished his story further. He told the arriving officers about catching a potential burglar, describing Henry as casing houses based solely on the boy's presence in his own neighborhood. The body cam captured this conspiracy of lies as multiple officers gathered to mock a child whose only mistake was trusting that truth would protect him. The group of officers found great amusement in Henry's situation, their laughter and casual conversation revealing how normalized this behavior had become. They treated the harassment of a black child as entertainment, completely ignoring their duty to protect and serve all citizens equally. The body cam footage would later serve as damning evidence of institutional racism within the LAPD. Growing desperate as the detention extended far beyond any reasonable time frame, Henry made the statement that would change everything. "My father is Special Agent Gary Williams with the FBI," he declared, hoping that his father's law enforcement credentials might end this nightmare. The boy's faith in the system his father served was about to be shattered by Smith's response. The officer's reaction became the defining moment of the entire encounter. Smith burst into mocking laughter, his derision captured perfectly by the body cam. "Ha! Your daddy's an FBI agent? Right, and I'm the chief of police. You think I'm stupid, boy?" The racist implications of his tone and word choice revealed the true nature of his character, while Henry maintained his dignity in the face of such humiliation. Smith's confidence grew with each passing moment, convinced he had caught a young criminal and exposed what he believed was an elaborate lie. He continued his mockery, telling his fellow officers about the boy's ridiculous story while they all shared in the joke. The body cam captured their unprofessional behavior in detail, creating a permanent record of their misconduct. But the laughter stopped abruptly when a figure in a business suit appeared in the distance, walking with the measured authority of someone accustomed to command. The body cam footage captured the exact moment when FBI Special Agent Gary Williams came into view, his federal badge prominently displayed, and his professional demeanor immediately recognizable to anyone familiar with law enforcement. "Officer, I'm Special Agent Gary Williams, FBI. This is my son. What seems to be the problem here?" The father's words cut through the morning air like a sword, silencing the group of officers who, moments before, had been so confident in their assumptions. The body cam recorded Smith's visible shock as reality crashed down around him, transforming his moment of perceived triumph into the beginning of his professional destruction. The silence that followed Agent Williams's introduction was deafening, captured perfectly by the body cam, as it recorded Officer Smith's world crashing down around him. The federal agent's credentials gleamed in the morning sunlight, their authenticity undeniable, and their implications devastating for the officer who had just spent 20 minutes mocking a child's truthful claims. Smith's face went pale as the magnitude of his mistake became clear, his stammering attempts at explanation falling flat against the weight of recorded evidence. Agent Williams positioned himself strategically between the officers and his son, his 15 years of federal law enforcement experience evident in every calculated movement. His professional composure barely contained the fury burning beneath the surface as he witnessed his child's humiliation firsthand. The body cam captured the controlled intensity of a man who understood exactly how the system worked and possessed the authority to ensure justice would be served. Henry moved closer to his father, the relief visible on his young face as validation finally arrived. The boy's dignity remained intact despite the ordeal he had endured, his truthfulness proven beyond doubt to the officers who had dismissed his claims with such cruel laughter. The contrast between his composed demeanor and the officers' obvious discomfort highlighted the moral bankruptcy of their behavior. The backup officers who had arrived to support Smith's false narrative began retreating to their patrol cars, recognizing the federal implications of their participation in this misconduct. Their casual involvement in harassing a child suddenly carried the weight of potential civil rights violations, and their self-preservation instincts overcame any loyalty to their fellow officer. The body cam recorded their hasty departures as they distanced themselves from Smith's catastrophic error. Within minutes of Agent Williams's arrival, neighbors who had witnessed portions of the encounter began emerging from their homes. Several produced cell phones containing video evidence of the harassment, offering their contact information voluntarily to support any investigation that might follow. The community's response demonstrated how Smith's behavior had offended even those who typically supported law enforcement, his actions so egregious that they transcended political boundaries. Agent Williams immediately contacted LAPD Internal Affairs, his federal credentials ensuring that his complaint would receive immediate attention rather than the bureaucratic delays that often plague civilian reports. He spoke with the calm authority of someone who understood both the legal system and the consequences that awaited those who violated civil rights under color of law. The body cam continued recording as he documented the incident details, creating an unassailable record of Smith's misconduct. The watch commander arrived on scene within 15 minutes, his hurried response indicating the department's recognition of the incident's severity. Finding an FBI agent filing a civil rights complaint against one of his officers represented every supervisor's nightmare, particularly when body cam footage existed to document every violation. The commander's attempts at damage control began immediately, though the evidence made any defense of Smith's actions impossible. Smith's placement on administrative leave became inevitable as the scope of his misconduct became clear. His personnel file, previously overlooked despite its numerous red flags, suddenly demanded urgent review, as investigators realized they had allowed a pattern of discrimination to continue unchecked. The officer's history of complaints against minority residents in affluent neighborhoods revealed a systematic abuse of authority that had finally reached its inevitable conclusion. The FBI's Civil Rights Division received notification of the incident within hours, triggering a federal review that would examine not only Smith's individual actions, but also the LAPD's failure to address his documented pattern of misconduct. Agent Williams's position within federal law enforcement ensured that this case would receive the thorough investigation that many similar incidents never experienced. Henry's emotional needs became a priority as his parents arranged counseling support through his school. The psychological impact of racial profiling on children required professional intervention, and the family's resources allowed them to access the best possible care. The incident had shattered some of Henry's faith in the system his father served, creating wounds that would take time and expertise to heal. The Williams family retained a prominent civil rights attorney within 48 hours, signaling their intention to pursue both criminal prosecution and civil remedies. Their decision to seek legal counsel reflected not only their desire for personal justice, but also their commitment to preventing similar incidents from occurring to other families who might lack their resources and connections. The legal machinery that ground Officer Robert Smith to dust moved with the inexorable force of federal justice. The Williams family's civil rights lawsuit, filed in federal court 3 months after the incident, sought $2.5 million in damages for constitutional violations, so clear-cut that even the city's attorneys privately acknowledged their indefensible position. The body cam footage had created an evidentiary record that eliminated any possibility of the usual police defense strategies. Smith's termination from the LAPD came swiftly once Internal Affairs completed their investigation. The department, facing potential federal oversight and massive liability, had no choice but to sacrifice the officer whose misconduct threatened their entire organization. His firing for cause eliminated any claim to pension benefits, costing him approximately $400,000 in lifetime retirement income that vanished along with his badge and gun. The FBI's criminal referral to the U.S. Attorney's Office resulted in federal charges under 18 U.S.C. Bev 242, the civil rights statute that makes it a crime for anyone acting under color of law to willfully deprive a person of constitutional rights. The maximum penalty of 10 years in federal prison hung over Smith's head like a sword, though prosecutors offered a plea agreement that would reduce his sentence to 18 months in exchange for his guilty plea and cooperation in reforming police practices. Smith's acceptance of the plea deal sealed his fate permanently. No law enforcement agency would ever hire an officer with a federal civil rights conviction, ending his career in the only profession he had ever known. His personal life crumbled alongside his professional destruction as his divorce finalized and his custody rights were severely limited due to his criminal conviction. The civil settlement negotiations proved equally devastating for both Smith and the city. LAPD agreed to pay $850,000 to the Williams family without admitting liability, though the body cam footage made their culpability undeniable to anyone who watched it. The settlement included provisions for comprehensive police reform that would cost the city millions more in implementation and ongoing training. Smith's financial ruin became complete as legal fees consumed his savings and his criminal conviction made him unemployable in any security-related field. The man who had once wielded the authority of the state found himself filing for bankruptcy, his prejudices having cost him everything he had worked to achieve. His modest apartment became a prison of his own making, furnished with the bitter knowledge that his racism had destroyed his life. The ripple effects of Smith's misconduct extended far beyond his personal destruction. The LAPD implemented mandatory bias training every 6 months for all officers, with supervisors required to review 25% of body cam footage monthly to identify problematic patterns before they escalated. Enhanced psychological screening for racial bias became part of the recruitment process, designed to prevent officers like Smith from joining the force in the first place. The department's technological upgrades included new body cam systems with tamper-proof features that eliminated the convenient malfunctions that had allowed previous misconduct to go unrecorded. Officers with multiple complaints now faced automatic review, while civilian oversight boards gained expanded authority to investigate and discipline problematic behavior. Henry Williams, meanwhile, transformed his trauma into triumph through academic excellence that earned him full scholarship offers from multiple prestigious universities. The incident had taught him harsh lessons about racial reality in America, but his father's support and professional counseling helped him channel his experience into advocacy for police reform. The boy who had been mocked for telling the truth became a powerful voice for justice. Agent Williams received promotion to supervisory special agent, his handling of the incident earning recognition from FBI leadership. The family's decision to speak publicly about their experience sparked national conversations about racial profiling and the treatment of black children by police. Their story became a case study used in law enforcement academies across the country, ensuring that future officers would learn from Smith's catastrophic mistakes. The total cost of Smith's prejudice exceeded $3.2 million when accounting for the settlement, legal fees, training programs, and technological upgrades required to prevent similar incidents. The city's liability insurance rates increased substantially, creating ongoing financial consequences that would remind budget officials of the true price of police misconduct for years to come. The case established legal precedent that strengthened civil rights protections and encouraged other victims of police misconduct to seek justice through federal courts. Smith's name became synonymous with the kind of racist policing that enlightened departments worked desperately to eliminate from their ranks. Years later, Henry Williams would enter law school with the goal of becoming a civil rights attorney, his childhood encounter with Smith having planted seeds of advocacy that would bloom into a career dedicated to justice. The officer's attempt to crush a black child's spirit had instead created a powerful voice for equality who would spend his life ensuring that other families never experienced such humiliation. Smith's legacy became a cautionary tale of how unchecked prejudice could destroy not only the lives of victims, but also the perpetrators who allowed hatred to guide their actions.